morning to everybody. I would be talking about today's outline, but title itself is here, Implication of Development via Cooperatives in Agriculture and Rural Area, which is FAO perspective. The contents itself outlines what kind of situation cooperatives working, agriculture development is happening, and also global trends implications. Number 3 is cooperatives' role and potentials in this changing development situation. Number 4 is FAO's perspective. 5th, FAO, what we have learned. 6, policy implications, FAO we would like to suggest, and our support to the cooperatives and producing organizations. This is our project examples, the way forward. Here it shows the small-scale family farming is a prevalent form of agriculture. The first pie chart shows that family farmers consist of, it doesn't show here, it's like almost like 90%. And the second pie chart in the central one, it shows that size of the farm. 2% of the farmers, they have only less than 1 hectare of land. And where the world poor are living, they are living in the rural area, almost 75% of them. So this is the current situation on agriculture and small farmers. That shows that improving livelihood of small-scale farmers, men and women, is key to reducing rural development and also the rural poverty and achieving food security. This is the context of small farmers, smallholders' constraints and consequences. From your side, it's the right side. It shows that constraints, the left side is consequences. I will not read up everything, but for example, land fragmentation and then dispersal is result in the high transaction cost, which is including mechanization and transport. Small farmers' sites and marginal areas they are working. That also means that they are often overlooked by service providers and infrastructure investment. And it goes into the limited asset. I'm going third one from the bottom. The limited asset they have means that it's hard for them to access to credit and finances for farm and business development. It also has the social implications. Social norm and gender inequality often happens in rural area more than the urban area, and also disproportionate work burden in rural area. That means that women are often at greater disadvantage. Vulnerability, precarious livelihood, that means that there's a high risk that are increased by impact by climate change and also various crises. What is happening, the global trends after 1990s? The policy reduces to the role of state in national economy. And also structural adjustment program started, which is reducing the public spending. Number 3 is further decentralization and also privatization of public services. Number 4 is changing institutional landscape with multiple actors. 5th, emergence of pluralistic service systems. It's no longer a simple system. Also, the number 6 is trade liberalization. These factors is a new challenges for small smallholder agriculture farmers, it's also they faces exclusion, more competitiveness, partiality of service, accountability, and coordination. So it shows that further challenge is happening due to the change of the world situation. So there are 4 implications in agriculture. What are the main implications for agricultural development in this current situation? First one is the shift in role from the state to as a single provider to a pluralistic service environment. It's no longer that states come to help to purchase the agricultural products. It's a very competitive environment where to sell. Shift in focus, that means that from increasing productivity to improving profitability is very important. That means that they have to have the good market access. They have to know what kind of crops can be more valuable, profitable, and then it's the competitiveness of the small holders happened. Number 3 is shift in perspective from linear solution to a systematic perspective. That means that the technological transfer and these things are all included. Number 4 is shift in approach from emphasis on individual farmers to strengthening the cooperatives and the producers' organization as key actor in service provision and collective economic operations. Without this organized system, it's very challenging or difficult for small farmers to work alone. And then we see that what are the cooperatives' roles and the potential in this current situation, changing situation. One, it's a provision of the service, which are extension, business, and technical models, services, transportation, and credit and finances. Number 2 is viable clients and partners. Number 3 is reducing transaction costs to get all small farmers together. Number 4 is creating economic scale and better market opportunities to working together, and meeting market demands and standard. It's much easier to work in an organized manner in cooperatives. Number 6, collective accumulation of asset and feasible infrastructure investment. Number 7 is negotiation of terms and contract with service providers and market actors. And number 8 is voice and agent. That means that leadership and empowerment of women and vulnerable groups, it happens. The voice can be heard and can be influenced in the policy making. This is a FAO's perspectives on cooperatives and then producers organizations as business model. If it works well, it's a result there. Access to service increases, access to market increases, and then also can make the response policies and institutions. And then there it said function. So what are the functions cooperatives, producers, organization can serve? Service provision, the role they have is direct service to members and also contract with different providers and coordination outreach. To get better access to markets through cooperatives, the function of cooperative is collective economic operations. The role they have is reducing transaction costs, creating economy of scale, and then meeting market demands and standards. For the responsive policies and then institutions, the function they have is, as cooperative, is to have representative voices and agent role. They do lobbying and advocacy. They articulate the demands of small-scale farmers, And they also negotiate the terms for small-scale farmers. In this way, cooperatives, producers, organizations play a key critical role in service provision and market access and overall transformation of small-scale agriculture. This is a very complicated diagram, but this is actually represent the way FAO thinks. The central cycle in blue, this is what I have mentioned. And above the result, it's also I have mentioned, if it works well, cooperatives have the result. Means that access to service, access to market, and then responsive policies and institutions, the outcome. Sustainable production, and also intensification and improved livelihood. It's reached to, on the top, the goal, poverty reduction and food security. The bottom part of the cycle blue is if it does not work. If it doesn't work, it's market failure and institutional failure. And also farmers, they suffer because they cannot really sell their products and due to the high transportation cost and also low price given for their products. The next one, I will be talking in next slide about this issue, but on your right side, it's the square you can see. These are critical factors and enabling conditions that I will be talking later. Okay, I have 5 minutes to finish. Critical factors for consider for these circumstances. There are internal and external factors. For example, enabling conditions for a cooperative to function, that is including the regulations and policies. Second one, risk to organizational failure. That means that internal condition, for example, dependency and free ride and no commitment. Number 3 is organizational design and capacity, visions, identities, governance, management. These are the very important issues. Number 4, horizontal and vertical linkages that former presenters are talking about. Need to help the small farmers to network and then further collaboration. It is very complicated because there are so many actors. Number 5 is stakeholders' capacity and coordinations. Mechanism for coordinations, capacity of state institutions to engage other actors is crucial. What we have learned, FAO's perspective for a successful cooperatives and the producers organization. Number 1 is considering enabling conditions. Number 2, respect the context and local realities. That means that there's no blueprint. We have to look at the local conditions, resources, the culture, how it works. Number 3 is engage in different actors, including civil society and the private sector. This is also mentioned by former speakers. Number 4 is plan and allow time for maturity. It takes time for the cooperative to mature and has to meet the different demand by time. What are the internal factors for the success? This is international organizational capacity and skills and competencies of cooperatives, membership, buy-in, and loyalty. They have to commit their time and efforts, governance, and leadership. External factors, that is including the role of the states and other stakeholders, long-term vision and policy coherence, support institutions and infrastructure, diverse services, which is market-oriented services, and linkage and coordination mechanism, and policy and institutional setting. What are the policy implications? Sorry, I have to go a little bit faster. But pointing out the issue is policy has to be coherent. We have to make sure the policy has the long-term vision of the cooperative development. Multi-stakeholders platform has to be there for policy dialogue and participation. And it has to make sure the efforts are coordinated and multidisciplinary cooperation has to be made. And then comprehensive and long-term capacity development has to be offered for cooperatives and support institutions. Fifth, recognition of plurality of actors and service providers, creating a linkage, functional linkage and coordinations. Here, this pie chart shows that how FAO support cooperatives. This different colors shows that five different strategic program of FAO. It's include food security, sustainable intensification, and then reducing poverty, inclusive food system, rehabilitation, resilience. It's just want to say that every program, all of 5 programs support cooperative in the different manners. This is the FAO support and cooperatives, where we support Africa 37%, Latin America 21%, Asia and Pacific 17%, and Near East and North Africa is 14%, Europe is 5%. But 78% are project-based support. Country-level support is 72%, regional level support is 21%, and the global level is 6%. Here, this is also the FAO support to cooperative. What kind of activity we support? The first pie chart, well, it doesn't show anything here. Sorry, it disappeared. But the first blue one, the largest one, it's capacity development, 36%. The orange one is knowledge generation and sharing, 19%. Gray one is enabling environment, 16%. Yellow one is market linkage, 16%. Dark blue is voice and participation. Support, 13% of our support goes there. The way forward. What FAO is thinking to support and has been supporting to support the cooperatives. One is supporting policy and regulatory process, ensuring the coherence. Second one is the analysis and institutional setting, the role and capacity of actors. Number 3 is appraisal of support service system, service needed and gap. Number 4 is capacity development of cooperatives and the support institutions. Then number 5 is the generating evidences and facilitating global and regional exchange and cooperations. And here, you can look at it in the hard copy. I don't go through, but it shows the example of the FAO support. For example, just read the first one. It's support in policy and regulatory process. We support reform of law and regulatory framework on cooperatives and producing organization. We support Equatorial Guinea and then Egypt and Malawi. This shows all different kind of support, ongoing one. Capacity development is here. And the generating evidence and the global exchanges. It's also listed. So maybe you want to look at it in a hard copy. And lastly, before I close this presentation, that I would like to have 2 remarks. This is taken from FAO 2017 so far. It's called Leveraging a Food System for Inclusive Rural Transformation, where it said, connecting small-scale farmers to source of knowledge, inputs, finance, and to profitable value chain. That requires action to strengthen the producer organization and cooperatives. Stronger producer organizations, cooperative, will be better equipped to cope with increasingly rapid transformation of developing world's rural area. So with this quote, I will conclude my presentation on the FAO's work. And thank you very much for your attention.